Whew, system quarterback. That's a tough one. Nothing but respect for Greg Coselll, but I don't think we're seeing eye to eye on this evaluation. So I've been lucky enough to be here in Jacksonville and see every throw that Trevor Lawrence has taken. And if you question the guy's arm strength, you just haven't been watching. I'm still trying to figure out how he fits this one between two defenders there to get to Calvin Ridley in that Colts game to open up last season. Injuries were a problem for Trevor Lawrence last year, but when he was healthy, he was dealing and making throws like this, and the Jaguars were winning football games. How does he squeeze that in there? That window's got to be like that big. So one of the other things that he mentioned, Greg Coselll saying that Trevor Lawrence is a guy that needs that supporting cast around him. He's right. But every quarterback needs a supporting cast around. So let's talk a little bit about the supporting cast that Trevor Lawrence has had since he's been here in Jacksonville, right? So as a rookie, this is what Trevor Lawrence walked into. A room with Urban Meyer, which we all know now was an experiment that failed massively. Marvin Jones, who was a free agent coming in, who definitely, no slight at any of these guys, but his best days of his career weren't in Jacksonville. DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault. Laviska Shenault is now bouncing around to another team, so that didn't work out. DJ Chark has been a man looking for a team since his Jacksonville days kind of ended here after his best year was with Gardner Minshew back in 2019. So not exactly a strong supporting cast to work with. All right, maybe it gets better in 2022. Let's take a look. So you bring in Doug Peterson, which is great. Doug Peterson's here. Everybody seems to love Doug Peterson. You bring in Christian Kirk, who is also fantastic. Definitely missed him out on the field last year. Zay Jones had a career season with the Jaguars. Christian Kirk had a career season. And then you still had Marvin Jones. So while this trio is much improved, it's still not something that I think you're maybe writing home about, because two of the guys had their best seasons of their career with none other than Trevor Lawrence, who clearly elevated his supporting cast. So then that brings us to last season. Doug Peterson with a little smirk on his face because he's going into another year, says he's feeling pretty good. Calvin Ridley is a guy who'd missed basically 2 years of football. Went out to have a 1,000-yard season and get a big old bag working with none other than Trevor Lawrence. Then he's got Zay Jones, who missed most of last season, and Christian Kirk, who also was injured for the majority of last season until he finally missed the home stretch to recover from that injury. So you're talking about guys that need supporting cast. Every quarterback needs a supporting cast. So when you set the bar in the NFL, there's none other than Patrick Mahomes that's on top, right? It's Pat Mahomes and everybody else. He's got Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is fantastic. This guy's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer and might go down as the best tight end in NFL history. You don't need much more when you got a guy like that. No slight at Evan Ingram, but Travis Kelce's just a whole different beast, right? So the only quarterbacks in the NFL that I think have done more with less than what Trevor has are these two guys. C.J. Stroud, I know nobody's going to like hearing that, but last year maybe it was a fluke, or maybe he's just that fantastic. But Nico Collins, nobody was writing home about him going into the season, and then Tank Dell, just poof, there he was. So it wasn't a whole lot there. And then Lamar Jackson, the Ravens have done a terrible job of surrounding that guy with talent. So overall, what you're saying is Trevor Lawrence hasn't been surrounded by the best supporting cast, and the players that he has been surrounding with have had career seasons when they got to Jacksonville and worked with 16. Let's think about this now. At some point, if they start having career seasons when he's throwing them the ball, maybe he's the guy helping them play their best football. Trevor Lawrence maybe hasn't played at the MVP level yet that people want to see, but that doesn't mean the talent isn't there. And I'm a guy that hates that generational moniker. It literally doesn't make sense. Generational means you're the best of a generation, and tagging a guy every couple of years when they're coming out of college, it's impossible. It is physically impossible for it to be generational just a couple of years later. Just doesn't happen. So I hate that moniker, but this guy's a really good football player. And let's not kid ourselves of anything else around it. His supporting cast around him as a rookie left a whole lot to be desired. There's a reason that team the year before had the first overall pick. That's normally how it works out, right? So, and then guess what? That next year, they had the first overall pick again because that supporting cast just wasn't there. They've been better. Last year, injuries slowed him down and slowed that team down. I think you're going to see a much better Trevor Lawrence this time. They've retooled that offense, and I expect a big step from 16. You keep 16 here in Jacksonville. You need to. I mean, this should not be much of a conversation, let alone much of a debate. Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback that the Jaguars have had in a long time, and they need to keep him here in Jacksonville. That means giving him a big old contract. That means extending the contract, get the job done, no controversy there. Now, if you want to talk about where we rank him as far as the quarterbacks in the NFL right now, that's another conversation that maybe we can have at some point in the near future here on the Sports Zone, but if you question this guy's arm strength or call him a system quarterback, I'm just not here for that debate. Look, I've seen enough. The guy's good. He is a good player, and I questioned him early on, so no questions from me at this point. Give Trevor Lawrence the contract extension.